We're doing the squat flow today, so we're going to go through the developmental sequence from supine and just sort of work on all the different bits that are going to help to improve the squat. So ankle mobility, hip mobility, thoracic extension, neutral pelvis, all those bits and bobs. So come and lie on your backs. Right, so we always start with connection, posture and breath. So you're going to lie on your backs. Can everyone see me okay?
Yeah.
And can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So feet hip distance apart. So we're going to work on connection first of all. So we should be feeling connected underneath both feet equally. Underneath the lumbosacral junction, which is the junction between your lower back and your pelvis. Underneath your TL junction, which is the junction between your upper back and lower back. Both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So we're going to start with the feet and we're going to work our way up and just try and get a bit better connected by just doing a few little postural tweaks. So first of all, we're just going to shift the weight from side to side between the feet, just trying to feel that connection, feel that the connection is equal from side to side. So when you feel like the connection is equal and balanced, you're just going to pause there and then you're going to think about whereabouts on your foot you're feeling that connection. So you're feeling it on the outside of the foot or the inside. If you're feeling it more on the outside, you're going to try and pull the inner arch down to the floor without lifting the outer arch. And then if you're feeling it more on the inner arch, you're going to try and pull the outer arch down without lifting the inner arch. So you should be feeling equal from side to side of the feet and then equal from inner arch to outer arch. So then we'll work our way up to the lumbosacral junction. So here the pelvis and lower back want to be in a neutral position. So we're going to just tilt the pelvis backwards and forwards to try and find that neutral position. So we're going into an anterior tilt, and by doing that you're going to peel the spine away from the floor, so it's going to lift and go into an extended position. And then you're going to reverse peel the spine into the floor, tilt the pelvis backwards into posterior tilt. Then you're going to peel the spine away again, taking the pelvis into an anterior tilt, or forwards, backwards. So rocking from forwards to backwards. Feel that movement in the pelvis and the spine. And then you want a pause in the midpoint between the two end ranges. So there shouldn't be any gap between your back and the floor, so check that with your hand. But then equally you don't want to be caved into the floor, so try not to have the spine indented into the floor. It should just be nice and flat. So your pelvis and your lower back should be neutral now, and by doing that neutral position you'll feel that the lumbosacral junction is a bit better connected with the floor. So we'll work our way to the rib cage, the TL junction. So imagine that your ribs and your pelvis are like the pages of a book. So what we want are for the pages to be closed. We don't want them to be open. So if they're open, you get this lumbar extension and this rib flaring. So we're going to pull the pages together so that they're parallel with each other. So ribs and pelvis are parallel, the book's closed. And by doing that, you should feel that that TL junction becomes a little bit more connected with the floor. And then we'll work our way to the shoulder blades. They should be equal from side to side. So again, just shift the weight from side to side so you feel like you've got that connection. Equal from side to side. And the shoulders themselves, they don't want to be in this anterior position. They don't want to be internally rotated or elevated, so we're going to try and get them into a more neutral position by slightly retracting, depressing the shoulder blades towards the back pockets and trying to externally rotate the shoulders. And that should take the shoulders into a more neutral position. So then we'll work our way to the head. So we want to look straight up towards the ceiling, and we're going to just try and push the head back down towards the floor. You'll feel the muscles at the front of the neck just working a little bit harder. We don't want the neck to go into extension or flexion, so it's going straight back down. So now you should be feeling a bit better connected underneath both feet, lumbosacral junction, TL junction, both shoulder blades and the back of the head. So we're going to work on our breath now. So put one hand on the chest, one hand on the tummy. And we're just going to think about the breath, and as we breathe in, what we want to feel is the hand on the tummy lifting. And on the breath out, hand on the tummy lowering. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, through pursed lips, like you're blowing through a straw. Just try and visualise that hand on the tummy lifting and being pushed up towards the ceiling on the breath in. And then lowering on the breath out. So really try and visualise this. Think about what's happening. Think about those tummy muscles lifting the hand up to the ceiling. Pretend you've got imagine you've got a pair of lungs in your abdomen. So we're going to try and bypass the lungs in the thoracic spine and the ribs. We're going to try and get the breath all the way down to the belly. Lifting that hand and lowering on the breath out. Hand on the chest doesn't want to move anywhere. So you don't want to feel the hand lifting as you're breathing in. So if you feel like you've got your breath in the right order, you're going to put your hands around your waist. Thumbs digging into the back, fingers digging into the front. And as you breathe in, you want to feel all the muscles expand the whole way around. So a way to sort of wake the brain up, wake the muscles up, is to, if you cough, feel all those muscles expand the whole way around, and now think about those muscles. Trying to lift the hands as you breathe in. And lowering as you breathe out. So it wants to be equal from side to side and from front to back. So if you are struggling in any area, let's just start with the front. So grab hold of the front muscles, give them a little bit of a poke. Cough again. Feel those muscles. Breathe and expand. Try and lift the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Now try and think about the sides. So dig the thumbs into the sides. And now as you're breathing in, you want to try and think about those muscles, trying to push your thumbs outwards. And if you take your thumbs around to the back muscles, these are the ones that most people struggle with. And think about those muscles trying to push your thumbs down towards the floor. So if you cough again, poke them, give them a prod. Breathe, expand. And then try and tie it all in together so everything's happening at the same time. So now we've got the 360-degree breath. We want to try and work on the brace. So when we brace, we don't want to clench or tense. We don't want to suck the belly button in. So we want to breathe and expand 360 degrees. And then before you take the breath out, you're going to create an outward push. So imagine that you're farting. So you're going to breathe in and expand. Outward push. Breathe out. Don't let the muscles relax as you're breathing in, breathing out. So keep that bit of activation as you're breathing out. So when you're doing things that need more stabilisation, this is the type of brace you want to create. So when you're carrying the shopping or lifting weights. Okay, so we've got the 360 breath, we've got the brace. So we're going to start by just floating one leg into the air and then lowering it back down. Float the opposite leg and lower it back down. So this movement just wants to come from the hip. So we don't want the pelvis to be tilting and the lower back to be arching as we're lifting and lowering. As we're taking the hip into flexion, slightly externally rotate the hip at the same time, because flexion of the hip is a coupled movement with external rotation and abduction. So I forgot to say, slightly abduct the hip as well at the same time. So when we're squatting and we're going into that squat position and we're flexing the hips, you want to be able to externally rotate and abduct as well. So slowly lifting and lowering, alternating legs. And then what we want to do is we're going to 360-degree breath, create the brace, and then we want to lift both legs up into the air. So as we're flexing again into external rotation and abduction, and then lower back down. So we're really trying to control what's going on in the pelvis, so we don't go into that anterior tilt and we don't lose the lower back into extension, so which is really common when we go down into a squat. So lifting and lowering the legs, keeping that pelvis and lower back nice and controlled. Just do a couple more. And then you want to end up in the 3-month supine position. So feet slightly higher than the knees, knees over the hips, hips externally rotated and slightly abducted. Feet neutral. So imagine that you're in a squat, but obviously legs up in the air. So you want your feet to be as neutral as possible so that your feet would be flat on the floor. So they don't want to be twisted inwards or outwards. And they want to be slightly dorsiflexed as well. Well, they want to be dorsiflexed. So hold this position. If you need to put your legs up on the sofa, because what we don't want to do is let the abdominal wall or the rectus abdominals become overactive. So if you start shaking, start tensing, just let your legs rest onto the sofa. We don't want the lower back to be going into lumbar extension. Need the pelvis to keep neutral. And you can put one leg over the other. So we're just stretching out the glutes. So we're making that kind of number 4 with the legs. Creating more external rotation in the hip. Keep breathing, 360 degrees. Swap sides. And then back into the 3-month supine. Give your knees a little bit of a hug. Just let your hip flexors rest. And then we're just going to do some rolling. So we're going to take the hands up into the air, fingertips pointed to the ceiling. You're going to lift your head slightly, look to the direction that you want to roll, and you're going to roll onto your side. You want to make sure that the shoulders and pelvis rotate at the same time. And you want to go nice and controlled. So you don't want to just land really heavily with no control. You don't just want to fling yourself back. You want to make sure that, like I say, pelvis and shoulders come at the same time. So imagine you've got a Lego body. So you don't disconnect and go shoulders first, then pelvis, or pelvis, then shoulders. And try and make sure that when you roll onto your side, you end up stacked up on your shoulders, so you're not kind of in this forward position of the shoulder. So rolling side to side, nice and controlled. Keep the breath, 360 degrees. And then make sure that when you're on your side, you don't banana the spine. So you want to keep nice and straight through the spine. And then we're going to just roll up into a lower oblique sit. So that's up on your side, forearm flat on the floor, mermaid legs. You want to turn into it, so we're going into pigeon stretch. And we're going to do an active pigeon stretch. So make sure that the spine's neutral, so you're not just falling into lumbar extension, and make sure the shoulders are active at the same time. And don't have your head forwards, don't have it going back into extension. So we're going to feel that stretch in that glute. And then we're just going to lift. So using the glute that's, so the leg that's forwards, we want to use that bum muscle to lift us and drive us forwards. And then lower back down. And then go again, lift. And lower. Try and get a little bit further each time. And lift. And lower. One more. And lower. And then we're going to turn back into the into the high oblique sit now. We're going to start to lift up. So what you want to do from this position is you're going to hinge forwards. So you don't want to just round forwards. So we're going to hinge and lift. Nice and controlled. Try not to fling yourselves up. So lifting and lowering. Really really, really slowly down. So this is going to strengthen concentric contraction on the way up, eccentric contraction on the way down. So obviously when we're squatting, it's really important that we've got really nice controlled eccentric contraction of the glute. So lifting up and down, nice and controlled. You should feel it in your bum muscle working. Try not to land heavily because you don't want to land heavily on your knees. And then from there you're going to bring one leg round into tripod. So I'll just show you, Ellie. So you're going to put your hand down, you're going to lift up and pull that leg through. Good. So we're in tripod. So hand flat on the floor. And we're going to hinge backwards. Again, what we're trying to do, as we're hinging backwards, we want to stay nice and flat through the upper back, so we don't want to be all curved like this. So we're going to try and pull down, keep the neck neutral, and then you're going to hinge backwards. So only go as far as your back knee will allow. Hinging backwards and forwards. You should feel that stretch down that hamstring. So hinging backwards and forwards. And then what you're going to do then is, in the tripod, we're going to work on ankle mobility. So we're going to go onto the tiptoe on that foot, and then slowly, slowly lower it down and try and bend the knee a bit further over the toe. So we're trying to increase that dorsiflexion, and then back up onto your tiptoe. And then slowly down, try and get that knee a bit further forwards, keep the heel on the floor, lift up, slowly down, forwards. Just going to show this camera. So you're going to lift the toe up and then slowly down, try and increase that dorsiflexion. Okay, then we're going to go up into the high kneel. So from the tripod, we're just going to come up into high kneel. We want to make sure that we're not too narrow, so we want to create that external rotation in the hip, and we want to make sure the hip is and pelvis are, not the hip, oh god, I can't speak today. The pelvis is level with the floor, so we're not in this kind of wonky position. We're going to pull the pelvis down towards the floor, so I call it a scooch, scooching the hip down. Make sure you've got your neutral lower back. And again, we're going to hinge backwards. Back up. You should feel that stretch down the back of the hamstring. So just in your own time, hinging backwards and forwards. Make sure this movement is coming from the hips, not the lower back, not the pelvis. So really try and think about what's going on with the pelvis and the lower back. Okay, so then we're going to just lean into this a little bit more now. So up into the high kneel and leaning forwards into a bit of a hip flexor stretch. And then just take one arm across, so we're stretching out a little bit more. Okay, and then back. And then we're going to do the same with the foot. So we're going to make sure the pelvis is level. You're going to go up onto your toe. Slowly, slowly down. Try and lean into that dorsiflexion. Up onto your toe. Slowly down. Your foot will probably be shaking into that dorsiflexion. So just in your own time, up and down. Making sure that the knee's tracking the second and third toe as well. So your knee's not collapsing inwards. And we want to try and keep the foot neutral as well. So we don't want it to be kind of deviating. So ankle neutral, foot neutral. Just do one more. And then we're gonna go from a high kneel. So make sure your pelvis is level again. So we're gonna reset, neutral spine, high kneel. We're gonna curl the back foot under, lean into that front foot and stand. And we want to try and make sure that the knee doesn't cave in, so knee tracks the second and third toe, and you don't want to shoot out to the side with the pelvis. So pelvis stays level with the floor the whole time. So we're going to lower ourselves back very, very slowly, up. Oh, my ankles are bad today. Slowly, slowly, slowly down. Keeping the pelvis level the whole time. Slowly down. Then we can grab hold of the weight. We're going to come up. We're going to take one foot backwards. I forgot, ideally, if you've got anything that you can put your foot on, like a step, the front foot, that would be better, but I've left everything at work and at stuff, so I'm just going to have to do it on the floor. But you want to slowly, slowly lower down. Make sure that the knee goes over the foot and then back up. So it's trying to sort of mimic a squat with the knee coming over the foot rather than the shin being vertical. So slowly down and up. Slowly, slowly down, up. Slowly down. Just do a couple more. If your pelvis is in the right place, if it's level with the floor, if it's not lifting up, and you're neutral, and you've got a neutral spine as well, I can really feel that in my bum muscle now. So put that down, take the back foot back, down into your sort of tripod or half tripod, and bring that leg back round. So I'll just wait for you, Ellie. So put your left hand down, bring that right leg back and lower down. So we're back into this mermaid position. So we're gonna just do some hip rotations. So knees up to the ceiling and then round the other way. Side to side. Try and end up nice and tall in your middle bit, so tall sit and nice and tall either side. And we'll just do one more. I'm going to finish off on the other side. So the opposite oblique sit. And we're going to turn into it. So we're going to go back into the pigeon stretch, but on the other side. Okay, so neutral spine, shoulders active. Try not to let your shoulders collapse. And then we're going to lift, so we're pushing down into the floor. So we're lifting and pushing, like propelling forwards a little bit, using those glutes to lift us. And then lower back down. Lift. Try and hold that position as you're lifting. And lower. And lift. Lower. Let's do one more. Lower. Turn back into your oblique sit. And then we're going to do the lifts on this side. So we're hinging and we're lifting. If you need to, have you got like a yoga block or a book, Ellie?
No.
No. Chopping board?
Gotta wait.
Oh, your ab mat.
Yeah.
Get your ab mat, put it underneath the right bum cheek. So
Okay.
it just lifts you up a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And then just try going from a bit higher up. And slowly lower down. Is that a bit better on the ab mat?
Yeah.
So was that a bit more difficult on the right hand side?
Yeah, this is not my good side.
Yeah. We need to work on that then. You okay?
Yeah.
So this is what we need to work on to get you out of pain. Slowly, slowly down. Just do a couple more. Nice, well done. One more. Down. So then you're going to put your hand on the floor. We're going to lift and bring the foot round into tripod.
I'm so confused.
Pardon?
I'm so confused.
So hand on the floor. You're going to lift your bum off the floor. So your right hand, if your right leg's kind of where the bum's on the floor, right hand will go down. Lift your right bum off the floor. Bring the left leg round into tripod. Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Okay, so we're in tripod and we're gonna hinge backwards. So hands both on the floor. And we're hinging backwards and forwards, nice long spine. This movement's just coming from the hip. So you might find that one side's easier than the other. Nice hinging movements from the hip. Try and think about what's going on in the spine. Try and make sure there's no sort of lumbar flexion as you're going backwards. And then we're going to do the ankle mobility. So we're going to go up onto the tiptoe. Slowly lower down. Take that knee past the toe if you can. Keep the heel on the floor. Lift, so in your own time, just lifting, Slowly lowering down. Lift. Again, try and make sure that the ankle is neutral, foot neutral. So we're not pronating or supinating or inverting or everting the ankle. Let's do a couple more. Okay, up into your high kneel. Again, make sure you're not too narrow, so foot out to the side. Pelvis level with the floor, neutral spine, and we're going to hinge backwards. And up. Feel that stretch down the back of the leg. Again, only go as far as that back knee is going to allow. Don't force it if the knee feels uncomfortable. Hinging the hips, feeling what's happening in the spine. Let's do a couple more. And we're going to go into the hip flexor, so we're just leaning into it. Feel that stretch down the back of the leg, or not the back of the leg, so the front of the back leg. Okay. Then we're going to do the ankle mobility, so go up onto the toe. Slowly lower down, try and increase that ankle mobility. Forgot how long this one is, sorry guys. Still got a little bit to go. Are you okay for another 15 minutes? As long as my phone battery doesn't die on me. Do one more. And then we're going to go from high kneel into stand, so make sure pelvis is level, knees tracking second and third toe, curl the back foot under, lean into the front foot and stand. And slowly, slowly down and up. Slowly, slowly down. Up, slowly, slowly down. Grab hold of your weight. Then we're going to come up and we're going to take that back leg back. And remember, we want to sort of make the knee go over the toes, so we don't want vertical shin. So we're going down, knee going over the toes and up, keeping the pelvis level. Up and down, nice and slowly. Make sure you go nice and slow down. Just do a couple more. And then down into your high kneel again. Take the hands down into tripod. And then curl the back foot under. Sorry to do the drink of water. It went down the other way. And you're going to take the front foot back into bear. Down onto your knees. And then down into low quadruped. My hair up, I'm getting really warm. So, down into low quadruped, forearms, sort of in this diamond position, shoulders active, push the floor away with the forearms, find your neutral spine. So tilt the pelvis backwards and forwards. Find neutral. Upper back nice and flat, so it's pulling down towards the floor. And then we're going to just hinge the hips backwards, trying to keep that neutral position in the lower back and pelvis. So the flexion's coming from the hips. So you want your knees wider than your hips, so that as you go back you can create that space, that external rotation in the hip. And come forward. So as we're going forwards, you don't want to lose the pelvis into anteversion or lumbar spine into extension. So we're keeping the pelvis neutral as we go forwards and backwards. So this is one of my favourites to do before I do some squats, just to sort of let my brain know what my body's supposed to be doing. Let's do a couple more. And then push up into quadruped. Again, shoulders active, push the floor away with your hands. Neutral lower back, so always reset, find your neutral pelvis and lower back. And then we're going to just, again, hinge backwards and forwards, keeping that neutral position of the pelvis and lower back. And then what I want you to do is add in, I need to move this stuff out of the way. I'm going to come out of the wall way a little bit. So we're going to just transfer the weight into one of your, so if you transfer the weight into the right hand, left knee, as we're hinging back, so you're going to extend the right hip and knee and flex the left hip at the same time. And then come back into quadruped. Now transfer the weight into the opposite hand and opposite knee, and then you're going to extend the other hip backwards as you're flexing the right hip. Try and keep this neutral position of the pelvis, and you don't want to sort of start shifting from side to side, so that the body doesn't want to move anywhere. The body wants to stay still, and this movement's coming from the hips and shoulders and knees. Try and keep neutral. Okay, back down into low quadruped. One thing I forgot, so take your legs a little bit wider. We want to keep neutral spine, back nice and flat, and we're just going to hinge backwards and forwards again. So this is going to get the adductors. Keep breathing, 360 degrees. Think about what's going on with the pelvis and the spine. Make sure that this flexion's coming from the flexion extension's coming from the hips, not from the lower back and pelvis. Let's do a couple more. Back up into quadruped. Neutral spine again, shoulders active, and then we're going to curl the back feet under. You're going to create your 360 degree breath and your brace, because we're going to lift the bum in the air, lifting the knees off the floor. And then we're just going to hinge the hips backwards. and forwards. Hinging backwards and forwards, trying to get this movement from the hips. If you need to take your bum into the air a bit higher as you're hinging backwards to avoid that flexion in the spine, that's fine. So we're going from low bear to high bear. Come back down. Give your legs a little bit of a shake off. We're going to find neutral again, shoulders active, lift the bum in the air, hinge backwards, walk the hands back, into your squat or your deep squat, and then we're just going to extend the knees and bend. Extend and bend. Feeling that length through the hamstrings. Let's do one more. Come back down into bear. Give your legs a shake off. Find your neutral again. Curl the back feet under. Lift your bum and knees off the floor. Hinge the hips backwards. Walk the hands back into your squat. And then you're just going to rotate round. So opening up the hips. And then back into your squat. Rotate the other way. Back into the squat. Rotate the other way. Back. Other way. Back. So we want to be nice and upright in the squat. And then we're just going to stand. And before we go into the next squat, you want to make sure you've got your feet comfortable distance apart. We're going to work on foot connection. So we're going to drop the knees inwards. Feel the weight shift to the inside of the foot. Then rock backwards and forwards until you can feel like the weight is equal from front to back of your foot. And then using your bum muscles, keeping that inner arch down on the floor, you're going to drive your knees outwards. So they're tracking the second and third toe. Find your neutral spine. So tilt your pelvis backwards and forwards. Create your 360-degree breath. And then down into your squat. And up. Really try and think about what your pelvis is doing as you're going down into the squat. If you need to put your hands, one hand on the tummy, one hand on the back, just to feel what happens when you initiate the movement so that it doesn't go into that anterior tilt. Again, find your neutral. Down. Each time reset, find your neutral, create your breath. Feel that your pelvis doesn't go anterior. Just do one more. So you can grab hold of your stick. Just going to put it behind our backs. Again, get your feet comfortable. Drop your knees inwards. Get the weight shifted on the inside of the foot. Rock forwards and backwards. until the weight's equal from front to back. Drive the knees outwards. Make sure you've got your neutral pelvis, and then just go down as far as you can go and up. Thinking about what the pelvis is doing and the lower back. Just do a couple more. And that's the squat flow